But some say it doesn't always feel like a celebration. Members of the LGBTQ community describe their experiences with coming out and the adversity they faced afterward. October 11th is recognized as National Coming Out Day.
There's been over 10 people since we started actually come out here.
Kye Sayers was one of the founders of the sanctuary and offers community support for those in the LGBTQ community.
It just reassures how important having other people in the community to support you is when coming out. So it's just really a blessing to be able to have a space like this.
But she said support doesn't come from everyone.
We're facing these struggles from our state.
Kye was one of the people who fought against the bill that would require businesses to put signs on bathrooms that alert the public of if they allow transgender people to use the bathroom of the gender they identify with.
We're going to keep fighting for those sort of things here.
Another group that fights for transgender rights is the Trans Liberation Collective.
There's a lot more work that needs to be done here.
Lavender Sunshine said that one of the most difficult things about coming out is that people often don't understand.
I tried to come out to my mom as non-binary and she didn't even know what it meant and never uses my correct pronouns despite me correcting her multiple times.
They said they feel more at home in the queer community than with their own family.
I feel like I can't be who I am around them, which is hard and brings up just a lot of pain.
Jude is also part of the collective, and he said his coming out journey doesn't fit into one day.
And my journey with coming out has been pretty much lifelong. Like, it wasn't a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's like one moment.
And he wants people to know everyone's journey doesn't have to be the same.
If you feel the need that you have to protect yourself over being true to yourself, I'm so sorry that you have to make that decision, but don't feel bad for protecting yourself for having to come out.
When you walk along the river in downtown Chattanooga, you pass hundreds of years of indigenous history that most people don't know about. Historians say these landmarks tell the story of how we got to where we are today, and understanding them can deepen Chattanoogans' connection to their home. You drive by it, you walk past it, and your kids play in it. The city's Native American landmarks are everywhere.
Anytime you walk through Chattanooga, you're walking in historic footsteps, even if you're unaware of it.
Hamilton County historian Linda Moss Mine says indigenous people created the original civilization on this land.
Without that history, there would be no Chattanooga.
And she says it all grew from here.
We always talk about civilizations grow from the rivers. Historically, that's true from the time of the Tigris and Euphrates. That's especially true in Chattanooga.
Ross's Landing was a hub for exchange.
The trading post was the place that everyone who was traversing this river stopped to visit.
It was named after Chattanooga's founder, John Ross.
He's the longest continuously serving Cherokee chief in the history of the Cherokee Nation.
Across the river, a tragic sight where Linda says the Cherokee people were loaded in boats to begin their journey on the Trail of Tears.
But to be forcibly removed from the land that has been the birthplace of your ancestors and where many of them are buried would be so difficult.
Just downriver at Moccasin Bend, indigenous people occupied the area for about 12,000 years.
There are archaeological remains that reflect societies and eras that changed the way humans used the land.
Linda says there's something very important about not losing touch with the past.
Everything that we accomplish of any value, culturally, politically, socially, all of that is built on the legacy of the peoples who were here before us.
And she says having this knowledge can deepen our connections as Chattanoogans.
But we connect not only with those who share our space and our time presently, we connect with those in our past, which informs our present, and then that predicts our future.
In Chattanooga, Eric Benninghoff, News Channel 9.
Last Friday, President Joe Biden signed the first ever proclamation declaring October 11th as Indigenous Peoples Day in the U.S. He's the first U.S. president to formally recognize the day.
National Indigenous Peoples Day falls on the same day as Columbus Day to honor the people already living in the country when Christopher Columbus landed in 1492. In Washington, D.C. today, an annual ceremony was held to recognize the Italian explorer. The National Christopher Columbus Association and National Park Service hosted the event to honor Columbus's observed discovery of America. Opponents of Columbus Day say he was responsible for the genocide of Native Americans.
And this is another Tyner High Teen Report.
Jalen Sims says he hopes it's this, his extracurriculars and several internships that will make him stand out as a college applicant.
I think myself and everyone else are more than a test score. I think we're more than A's and B's.
The Tyner High School senior is in the middle of his college application process, submitting 17 applications to 17 different schools, all without sending either an ACT or SAT score.
I'm relying heavily on GPA and extracurriculars because all colleges, they do something called this holistic review, where they don't just focus on one aspect of your application. They focus on your application as if it was this huge pie.
This packed parking lot full of prospective Lee University students and their families. The high school seniors here today are also in the thick of that college application process.
There is certainly a move for colleges and universities away from the standardized testing.
At Lee University, test scores are optional but highly recommended.
So for us, the standardized exam is used far more for placement than it is for an admission decision, but it is also an important determinant in our merit scholarship structure.
According to Spark Admissions, hundreds of schools across the U.S. went test optional during the pandemic because of access problems, and they still aren't requiring SATs or ACT scores. It's a trend that began before the pandemic, but has been amplified.
I think as we move forward, this is not something that colleges and universities will go backward. I think that we will slowly start to see more and more colleges and universities moving away from those nationally standardized exams.
Yeah, so I mean, gas prices will continue to climb as demand surges as we go into a colder winter, and it's partly supply and demand dynamics, but it's partly supply chain issues, and we're seeing supply chain disruptions across the board in terms of products, stemming both from things going on in Asia and the U.S., so both sides of the planet. It's partly because of factory shutdowns in China driven by Delta variant outbreaks, or now emissions targets requiring factories to shut down. On the U.S. side, the issue is much more with labor, so there's a shortage of longshore workers and truckers to actually get stuff off of shipping containers and into stores, onto shelves. And so we're seeing that as we reopen the economy and demand surged, firms haven't been able to keep up with production and also with shipping. So we're seeing these supply chain disruptions everywhere, and they're driving prices higher.